Yeah, you can start.
Okay. Om Ajnanatimiraandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Desatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langaite Girim Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Sushrushoshadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Styanmahatsevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishevanat Shrinvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridyantasto Hyavadrani Vidunoti Surutsatam Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama-shloke Bhaktir-bhavati Naistiki Tada rajastamo bhava kamalobhadayasya Chaitayete rana-viddam sthitam sattve prasidati Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad-bhakti yogataha Bhagavad-tattva-vijnanam mukta-sangasya jayate Vidyate hridaya-granthis-chidyante sarva-samshayaha Shriyante chasya karmani drishta evatmanishvare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so we will be reading today from Canto 1, Chapter 12. Okay. Canto 1, Chapter 12, verse number 7. This is about Maharaj Parīkṣit's meeting with the Lord. One second while I adjust my screen. Okay, so here we go, the verse. Yeah. मातुर्गर्भगतो वीरः सतदा भृगुनन्दना तदर्श पुरुषं कञ्चित् दह्यमानोऽस्त्र तेजसा Matur, mother, Garbha, womb, Gataha, being situated there. Veeraha, the great fighter. Saha, child Parīkṣit. Tada, at that time. Bhrigu Nandana, O son of Bhrigu. Dadarsha, could see, Purusham, the Supreme Lord, Kanchit, as someone else, Dahyamanaha, suffering from being burned, Astra, the Brahmastra, Tejasa, temperature. Translation: O son of Bhrigu, Shaunaka, when the child Parīkṣit, the great fighter, O son of Bhrigu Shaunaka, when the child Parīkṣit, the great fighter, was in the womb of his mother, Uttara, and was suffering from the burning heat of the Brahmastra thrown by Ashwatama, he could observe the Supreme Lord coming to him. Okay. Purport: death generally involves remaining in trance for 7 months. A living being, according to his own action, is allowed to enter into the womb of a mother by the vehicle of a father's semina, and thus he develops his desired body. This is the law of birth in specific bodies according to one's past actions. When he is awake from trance, he feels the inconvenience of being confined within the womb, and thus he wants to come out of it, and sometimes fortunately prays to the Lord for such liberation. Maharaj Parīkṣit, while in the womb of his mother, was struck by the Brahmastra released by Ashwatama, and he was feeling the burning heat. But because he was a devotee of the Lord at once appeared himself within the womb by his all-powerful energy, and the child could see that someone else had come to save him. Even in that helpless condition, the child Parīkṣit endured the unbearable temperature due to his being a great fighter by nature. And for this reason, the word Viraha has been used. So this is our verse for today. Some important points are like indications here is that in the verse, one second, again, I'm trying to adjust my screen. Okay, so in this verse, we see that the Sutta Goswami is addressing to Shaunaka Rishi, son of Bhrigu, who is leading the whole stages of Naimisharanya. And the next point we want to note here is child Parīkṣit, the great fighter, in the womb of his mother, Uttara. This indicates the nature of the child inside. He is a great fighter even before he was born. That means that the fighting spirit is there. He's not a great fighter at that point. It's not like he's a Maharathi right at that point. He is fighting with a big army of soldiers or something. But the subtle nature or the living entity's absorption in one particular nature determines one's lifestyle or occupation or interest and taste, all those things. So here, subtly, already Maharaj Parīkṣit was a warrior. So when he comes out also, he is educated and trained in that way, and he proceeds with that same, it suits the nature. That was the whole education system at that time. Then the next point to note is he was suffering from burning heat of Brahmastra thrown by Ashwatama. He was suffering means he was feeling the heat actually. When Ashwatama threw the Brahmastra, it hit only the womb of Uttara, not Uttara herself or anybody else. It's the powerful potency of celestial weapons. Or Prabhupada mentioned this in 7th chapter of the same canto, about how Brahmastra is like a very refined nuclear weapon. And in current day, like if somebody has to destroy, if somebody has to like throw a nuclear weapon, it it does not just attack the target. It attacks everything around the target, surrounding space. Everything is destroyed completely. There is mass destruction. There is waste of resources. It's it's really unrefined, gross, But the subtle Brahmastra, the subtle nuclear weapons used those days, they attacked only the target, no matter how powerful they were. So that also shows the consciousness of the person who is actually targeting. It's not random aversion kind of consciousness. It is really enmity. They only target the enemy, not the surroundings and all that. But here, Ashwatama, we read in 7th chapter also, he just threw it. The first Brahmastra he released, um, it was out of fear for his own life. And second one again he releases, um, is targeting just Uttara. So that's really amazing technology in the Vedic times. And one cannot just simply understand, like Prabhupada mentions in Introduction to Bhagavad-Gita, that Vedic knowledge is not to be experimented. We can experiment if we become qualified to experiment, first of all, but the result is already published. We can experiment only for our own conviction, but the results are already published. So rather than wasting time in experimenting, Vedic knowledge to be accepted. That's what Prabhupada says. So here we are seeing that Uttara's womb was affected. And even though he was feeling the heat, where was his attention and vision? Parīkṣit Maharaj's attention and vision. It was observing Supreme Lord coming to him. So that's where his consciousness was going. That's where his vision was going, attention was going, to just see the Lord who is coming to him to save him, actually. So that's the beauty of Parīkṣit Maharaj's vision. With that burning heat, what else can you normally perceive, right? Like normally one becomes absorbed in one's problem and identifying the source of the problem, how, or blaming the source of the problem, all these things. But here, the vision of Parīkṣit Maharaj, even in that such a terrible situation, it's a physical threat, actually. It's not like an imaginary something. It is a physical threat. It's a perceivable threat, and he's feeling the heat, but his vision and attention is going to the Lord who is actually coming into the womb, just now coming, not really there, like coming to him. Yeah? So that's another important message that comes through, and Prabhupada explains very nicely what death means. Prabhupada says death generally involves remaining in trance for 7 months. Trance also here could mean unconsciousness, like not in perceivable consciousness. So according to Prabhupada's statement here, only at 7 months, the 7th month, the fetus or the fetus, the baby within, starts having consciousness to perceive things. And a living being, according to his own action, is allowed to enter into the womb of a mother by the vehicle of father's semina, and thus he develops his desired body. We read about this in very nice detail in 15th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. Detail in the sense how each and every species of life, they get a certain type of eyes, certain type of nose, certain type of mouth, certain types of ears and sense organs, and legs and hands, and like the whole structure of the body according to one's previous karma and the guna they were involved in. So what that means is that the whole body Prabhupada is mentioning here is he develops his desired body. So this whole material body is coming because of one's desire to have something that doesn't truly remind him of Krishna or Lord or his own original constitutional position, that's very unfortunate. And then Prabhupada says more, this is the law of birth in specific bodies according to one's past actions. So what we have now is depending on what we were or what we desired yesterday. It also means what we want tomorrow can be modified according to what we are going to do today, right? So tomorrow's future is determined by what we do today, what we choose to do today. This is one relieving thing or liberating thing for us when we even, again, going back to Bhagavad-Gita, there are 5 topics discussed in Bhagavad-Gita. First is Ishvara, the Supreme Lord. Then there is discussion on Jiva, the living entity. Then there is discussion on Kala, time factor. And there is discussion on Karma, action, reaction, cycle. And there's discussion on Prakriti also. Prakriti is the modes of nature or material manifestation and material nature. So in this whole 5 topics, 4 are eternal, as we all know, and 1 is temporary. That is karma. Karma is temporary in the sense that yes, it goes from birth to birth to birth we are carrying, but it can be aborted. The living entity has the power to abort the karma if he chooses to link with someone who is above this karma factor, so above the modes of nature. That's why we connect, the connection with Guru and Krishna are so vital, because they are above modes of nature. Krishna is the controller of 3 modes of nature and karmic, which implicates 1 in karma, right? So if we link with Krishna and Krishna's representatives, then karma can be aborted. Otherwise, it's like a conveyor belt where we see in the when we come back from India, we see this conveyor belt in the airport carrying our bags. It keeps going and going and going and going until we pick the bag and put it out. The bag will be in the same conveyor belt, right? Unless somebody picks it up. So similarly, those who can pick us up, if we can allow them to pick us up, then our karma is aborted. Otherwise, this law of birth continues in our lives according to our past actions. Then Prabhupada's next sentence, when he is awake from trance, he feels the inconvenience of being confined within the womb, and thus he wants to come out of it. So the inconvenience of being confined within the womb. Right now we can imagine, we can just experiment sitting inside a cardboard box for 7 months. You will be fed inside there. Everything will be given there, but it'll be closed all the time. And there will be a fire around the cardboard box. There'll be like this amniotic fluid, the water that is bombarding the bag of water. You got to be crouched and in a C-shaped position, they call it. So arched back, all these things. How much can we tolerate, right? It's very hard. So this trance that we are talking about is just it's really like to just let the living entity be there without too much experiencing the struggle. But at one point the consciousness has to be awakened. So at 7 months, as per this purport of Prabhupada, that the living entity starts perceiving, the explicitly perceiving. Before that also the living entity does, the fetus, the baby does feel we hear in third canto, the different the intestinal worms, bacteria, all these germs are actually attacking, and the gentle body of the baby gets, they can perceive the difficulty. But in the 7 months there is more explicit suffering actually. So the baby starts feeling inconvenience of being confined within the womb. This is crazy. We can just imagine the spirit soul. We all hear it's the size of the spirit soul is tip of 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair. So tiny spirit soul, but very powerful actually. But this tiny spirit soul can be powerful when it's connected to its original position of being connected to Krishna. But because of the forgetfulness of Krishna, this tiny spirit soul is trapped in a particle of, um, the womb, in the particle of the mixture of womb, sperm and ovum, this whole biology class that we hear, how difficult it is for tolerating the trap, actually. And in the trap, 7 months gone, 9 months, then come out, and then we continues to stay in the trap of this body, actually. So only difference is now we are, it's very easy for a living entity to get distracted in a body that is born in this world, because there's a lot of distractions available. So one can feel distracted and forget about the pain, or one can connect to the pain and take shelter. So these options are there. Anyway, let's go back to the purport again. So thus he wants to come out of it, and sometimes fortunately prays to the Lord for such liberation. So this sometimes means not all souls actually pray to the Lord for liberation. Only those who have some level of bhakti sukriti starts thinking of the Lord and trying to pray, please relieve me from this clutches of Maya. And there is a beautiful bhajan also. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written a bhajan based on this very nicely. We don't have time to sing it, but Sharanagati, the first bhajan after the introductory bhajan, is about this. The section of dainya, humility. Bhuliya tomare samsare ashiya, ode nana vida bheta. Meaning, like, I forgot you, O Lord, and then I came to this material existence, and I'm having to suffer and enjoy. I mean, we think enjoyment is enjoyment, but enjoyment also is suffering after a point. So I'm having to go through this suffering and enjoyment, multitudes, nana vida bheta, like multitudes of it I'm going through. So he says, our acharyas in this disciplic succession are experts. They can put all this high philosophy into a bhajan and help us just sing it and realize. So they're very expert, actually. So next we see Maharaj Parīkṣit, while in the womb of his mother, was struck by the Brahmastra released by Ashwatama, and he was feeling the burning heat. But because he was a devotee of the Lord, the Lord at once appeared himself within the womb by his all-powerful energy, and the child could see. So we'll pause here again. So because he was a devotee of the Lord, the soul that is inside the mother's womb, we can direct the soul, we can help the soul to take shelter. That's why there is so much emphasis on the process of childbearing, actually. Within ISKCON, there's practices of how to actually prepare oneself to bear a child, and how to prepare oneself to take care of the child within the womb, like not just the physical needs, but the spiritual needs of the soul. How to take it, how to address the spiritual needs of the soul, who is actually coming to a mother, or coming to the parents as their child. So it's such a very, very important service. And so there are processes that are recommended to prepare oneself to be a parent, and prepare oneself to nourish the child, not just physically and socially and mentally, but also the prime foremost spiritually, how to nourish the child when the child is in the womb. So this is the Parīkṣit Maharaj is a devotee of the Lord because of his parents who invited a soul into their womb, who actually Uttara invited this child inside the womb and nourished by just Krishna Katha. So we don't know the whole history, but we can only, by Prabhupada says, by seeing the fruit, one can understand the value of the tree. So the Prabhupada, what he means is seeing the fruit, seeing the quality of Parīkṣit Maharaj. We can only imagine how the nourishment, spiritual nourishment could have happened actually with Mother Uttara and all the other, Pandavas around him. So that's again an important aspect of our life. Childbearing is like that's a natural and one of the important stages in one's life, and how to conduct it, how to prepare for it is also very important. Then next sentence of Prabhupada is someone else, okay, here, the child could see that someone else had come to save him. So his vision is towards solution, even though he is in the middle of the problem. That is a blessing actually, and that comes also by spiritual strength, and not just by analytical knowledge can one do problem solving, but with spiritual strength, one's consciousness is turned towards the Lord, who is the ultimate solution for any material or spiritual problems. He is the ultimate solution. So Parīkṣit Maharaj's vision is turned towards that Krishna. Even in that helpless condition, the child Parīkṣit endured the unbearable temperature due to his being a great fighter by nature. And for this reason, this word viraha is being used. We discussed this already. So the main essence of this purport we see is multiple things, multiple messages are coming. One is the quality of Parīkṣit Maharaj, of looking towards Krishna, even in the middle of such intense issues where he cannot even fight against it. He is in the womb. He is bound in this position. He's looking to Krishna. That's one. He's not even looking to mother, or his vision is fixed on the person who's coming to save him. We'll see in the next few verses beautiful descriptions of Krishna, what he sees, in the womb. That's one. And the second thing is, we also see through this example how important it is to the service of whole childbearing and raising and all that. And we also see that how one acquires a body according to one's desires to be independent from Krishna. So we just need to work on connecting with Krishna, who can pull us out of this conveyor belt of material bodies. Multiple material bodies that we've been taking, and this, hopefully we all will have, this is the last one, if if Krishna allows. So that's Krishna and his representative spiritual master are the only personalities who can pull us out of this trap. And I think these were the main messages. Solution-oriented approach, taking responsibility for our own lives to get out of this trap of material body by connecting to Krishna and accepting that it's our karma that in this position, but it's not perpetual, it's not eternal. We can allow it to be perpetual, but it's not eternal. We can come out of it by looking to Krishna. So Parīkṣit Maharaj is setting us an example, even from the stage where he is inside the womb. So I'll end there. Please feel free to share your inspiration based on this verse. That will help us to go more deeper in this verse, not to stop anybody sharing anything else, but let's just to keep the focus for us. Yeah. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. This is HG Satarupa. Please accept my humble obeisances. Guru Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for the insight. I have some questions related to reincarnation, which you partially touched.
Anything? Devotees?
So my understanding is that, Mataji, that because of our mixed consciousness, like the, one thing which is clear from Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna, we have started this process, and Krishna will help to get the
Give
human
it a minute or two for you to
right.
think and
So
share.
other thing in the material consciousness, we are responsible for our activities. So after the end of this life, where do we exactly go? Like, do we go
Okay, so I
because
can
we
read
are
something for you
Mataji, can you hear us?
to conclude if nobody has anything.
Hare Krishna,
This is
Mataji,
from
can you hear
third
us?
canto,
I think she's
31st
not here,
chapter,
Prabhu.
how the living entity is bound in the womb, and then we will conclude this. The child placed within the amnion and covered outside by the intestines. The child remains lying in one side of the abdomen, his head turned towards his belly, and his back and neck arched like a bow, like a C-shaped, right? The child thus remains just like a bird in a cage, without freedom of movement. At that time, if the child is fortunate, he can remember all the troubles of his past 100 births, and he grieves wretchedly. What is the possibility of peace of mind in that condition? Thus, endowed with the development of consciousness from the 7th month after his conception, this again, 7th month after conception, the child is tossed downward by the airs that press the embryo during the weeks preceding delivery. Like the worms born of the same filthy abdominal cavity, he cannot remain in one place. The living entity in this frightful condition of life, bound by 7 layers of material ingredients, prays with folded hands, appealing to the Lord who has put him in that condition. Meaning Lord is not the doer. There is a whole discussion based on this in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. But without his sanction, nothing happens also. Okay, next. Here, this is an important, very nice thing. We can even pray like this now, The human soul says, I take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears in his various eternal forms and walks on the surface of the world. I take shelter of him only because he can give me relief from all fear, and from him I have received this condition of life, which is just befitting my impious activities. I, the pure soul, appearing now bound by my activities, am lying in the womb of my mother by the arrangement of Maya. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him, who is also here with me, but who is unaffected and changeless. He is unlimited, but he is perceived in the repentant heart. To him I offer my respectful obeisances. I am separated from the Supreme Lord because of my being in this material body, which is made of 5 elements, and therefore my qualities and senses are now being misused, although I am essentially spiritual. Because the Supreme Lord of Godhead, Supreme Personality of Godhead, is transcendental to material nature and the living entities, because he is devoid of such material body, and because he is always glorious in his spiritual qualities, I offer my obeisances unto him. The human soul further prays, the last verse. The living entity is put under the influence of material nature and continues a hard struggle for existence on the path of repeated birth and death. This condition of life is due to his forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. Therefore, without the Lord's mercy, how can I again engage in transcendental loving service of the Lord? So like this, the living entity in the womb, there are many verses, really nice verses, praise, So anyway, there is very beautiful verses, third canto, 31st chapter, that relates to the words that today we read about Parīkṣit Maharaj. Whenever you would like, you can go ahead and read. Thank you so much for all your participation and joining today for the Bhagavatam class. we will end here. Oh, Haribol, you cannot hear me. I'm not able to hear. Yes. Oh, okay. 1 second, Prabhu.
Oh, we can hear you, Mataji.
No, Mataji is not able to hear. Can you hear us, Mataji?
Now I can hear. Sorry about it. Now I can hear. Yeah.
Okay.
Something wrong. I mean, I think it got connected to Bluetooth or something. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to not pay attention.
The Guru was
Anything?
asking some question, Mataji, earlier. So when you...
Oh, okay, sure.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Ashwatama. So my question is, you can hear me now, right, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhu.
So my question
Yes.
is,
Yeah.
in the mixed state of consciousness, we are responsible for our activities. So we perform good karma and bad karma, and I understand karma is non-eternal. So what exactly happens to a devotee in the mixed state after he leaving the body? Does he goes to the heaven and hell, or he has a direct opportunity to take a body that is suitable to continue Krishna consciousness?
Such nice question, Prabhu. You are just asking Arjuna's question in the 6th chapter, right? You definitely know this. He asks, what happens to an unsuccessful yogi? Bhakti yogi, we can see, unsuccessful yogi, who does he become like a riven cloud? Not ending up here, not ending up there. Does he go to the hell, heaven, or can he get what opportunities does he have, right? So Krishna says, as you know, that such a soul, according to the level of advancement they have made, they will be given an opportunity to take birth in a suchi, or a clean in the sense, clean habits, a family who can nourish clean habits, suchinam, and shrimatam, there is one who has sufficient wealth or aristocratic family, that they don't have to worry about bread and butter. They can actually just go and start living in Krishna consciousness, try to develop their devotional service from there on. And then Prabhupada says in the next purport or next verse, and Krishna says in the next verse, that or in the family of transcendentalists. So one has really made sufficient advancement, but still tinged with some materialistic tendencies, like a mixed devotee that you're saying. They will get an opportunity according to their level of advancement to be born in a family of transcendentalists. And from there they can pick up. So, but anywhere they take birth, it is still in their hands whether they want to pick up or not. Nobody forces devotional service on somebody. So that's the recollection that I can get about your question. I'm sure you already know this, but somehow thank you for asking. And when you asked what exactly happens, I don't know exactly what happens, because nothing is, we cannot really predict, because we don't know the exact karma, right, of a mixed devotee. So it's not, we cannot put the formula together, but in principle, they will get an opportunity where they can pick up from where they left in the previous birth. It can be in heaven, it can be in this planet, wherever it is still a material body. Only problem is then if one uses those facilities not for advancement, that could happen too, depending on the intensity of their desires versus their devotion. But opportunities will be given. That's what I'm recollecting.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for touch basing that. So can I ask one more question, Mataji?
Before that, maybe Jayant Prabhu has his hands raised, and then we can come back to you at 7:40. But yeah, Jayant Prabhu, would you like to say something? I see your hands raised, but you're on mute.
No, I think might be I hit the button accidentally.
Okay,
So,
all right. All right, thank you. Yes, Sachisita Prabhu, last question. Yeah, yes, Prabhu.
So, Mataji, my understanding is also because we are practicing Krishna consciousness in this life and wearing the tulsi beads in our neck. So, by wearing tulsi beads in the neck, it is a sign that Yamadutas cannot approach. In that case, I was told by some devotees earlier that someone will come and take us. I mean, again, it's a sort of a college question, like
I'm not
what's up? So how does that work, Mataji? Like any sort of insight? I know from in the case of Ajamila, it happens, but is there any
contemporary examples?
You got it.
You tricked me already. I was going to tell Ajamil, but you already tricked me. But contemporary examples, there are many statements like that in Nectar of Devotion, as you probably recollect in the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 chapters about the wearing of Kantimala and wearing of Tilak and keeping a set of Bhagavatam at home. There are multiple statements, and just attending one Ratha Yatra in Jagannath Puri and keeping just bowing down to Mayapur dust, just landing in Vrindavan once, there's so many like that, right? There's so many statements, nothing, and just taking Mahaprashadam even once. So we have all these multiple wonderful, inspiring statements, which sometimes look like just inspirational and motivational. But as we also know from our acharyas and teachers, they are fact. They are factual, not just, just some motivational speech or something like that. So yes, you asked for a contemporary example. I don't know about the Kantimala example. I'm sure there are multiple examples out there in the world, but we know one thing from book distribution example. There was, I think I have shared this before, but I'm not sure if anybody remembers, but I can share it again. We know that when someone keeps Prabhupada books at home, even in the bookshelf, I'm looking that way because of my bookshelf. So those books have so much potency that one can be freed from the fear of death. So what happens in this, I think it happened in some European country. I don't remember where exactly, Russia maybe, I'm not exactly sure. So this one person who happened to just, somebody knocked on their door and gave an Ishopanishad, and they kept it in their bookshelf all the way above where you cannot even reach the book. It's somewhere on the top shelf. So that means that there is no intention to read, but just out of courtesy and out of some respect, they just took the book. Okay. But this person was a heavy drinker or drunkard, if you want to put it in that, alcoholic basically. So one day they come back home heavily drunk, and because of that effect of drinking, and there's some kind of toxic effects happen in the body, and they start convulsing. They just lie on the floor, start convulsing. Convulsing means like having fits kind of a thing, right? Like really prepared to leave the body. And then he sees a very ugly looking, fierce, very demoniac kind of looking people approaching him. And that is the Yamadutas. I'm not just telling a fiction story. This happened really, and it was recounted by, I think, Indradevana Maharaj, if I'm not wrong. So this whole thing happens, and the Yamadutas come, and at that time somehow they turn to the bookshelf. I mean, they're lying that way, and their gaze fixes, even in that convulsing state, the gaze fixes on Ishopanishad book. Whoever we haven't seen Ishopanishad, you can go back and look up Ishopanishad cover page. Yeah, I don't have it right here. Ishopanishad cover page, has Anantasesh, right? So there is Lord Vishnu with Anantasesh. So suddenly the hoods of Anantasesh, the jewels in the hoods of Anantasesh start glittering. It's amazing. We can only imagine the multiple hoods of Anantasesh, the jewel is glittering. And this person starts feeling some kind of a spiritual energy, just like fixed gaze. And as soon as the gaze is fixed on Anantasesh, the Yamadutas leave. And this person, he wakes up, he gets saved, he wakes up, and he remembers the whole thing. And in the Ishopanishad book, he starts reading, and he looks for the address of the temple. And there is Bhaktivedanta Book Trust address given and all that. So somehow he calls up and finds a local temple and goes there. And then he becomes a devotee, a book distributor, an initiated devotee. So that's the potency I can say. So I'm sure Kantimala also has such potency, which we probably don't know. And I know that there's another recount. I don't know the details of a daughter who kept giving Tulsi, offered Tulsi to her father who was in the deathbed, and not a devotee, but became a devotee at the last minute. Just by that, his consciousness transformed. So there are many recounts which we probably are not aware. This is one example. You might already know this, but just shared it anyway.
Thank you, Mataji. That was very inspiring. Thank you for filling me in. Appreciate this.
Thank you, Prabhu. So we will have to end. I think we really are way off time. And that was my fault because I didn't hear the questions. I started reading something to share inspiration. Please forgive me for extending the time. I'll try to keep up with the time from next time. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Grataraj Srimad